So let's now turn our attention to the petroleum sector. Recently, fuel prices were going up. I mean, consumers were complaining, and it triggered hikes in transport fares. And we heard the Vice President stating that government, in a bid to ensure that fuel prices goes down, is engaging international oil suppliers, and they are coming up with a policy that is called Good for Oil. And later on, we heard that even UAE, their national oil company, came out to say that nobody has engaged them, contrary to what the Vice President put out in a statement. Now, in the midst of all these challenges, we have a refinery with a capacity of 45,000 barrels per stream day sitting idle. What should government do to ensure that TOR is revived, and they are not doing?
It is a matter of policy. You see, what policy does is it tells you government direction and its priorities. But over the past few years, we've seen policy inconsistencies.
Like?
And let me use Tema Refinery for example. While one former energy minister was saying that they were going to build or expand Tema Refinery at a different location and use the existing one as a storage facility, the MD of the same Tema Refinery didn't know about that and was saying something different. At the same Houston, Texas exhibition, the MD was also quoting other, financiers or investors into Tema Refinery to expand the existing one. What's government policy? We have come to a conclusion at IES that government is losing policy credibility in the energy sector.
Because of toll?
They say not just because of toll, but you see, you say one thing and do another. You mooted an idea 6 years ago, a petroleum hub. Where do you start the hub from? You start with what you have today, the resource that you have. Why do you leave Tema Refinery out of the planning and say, I am going to start a new petroleum hub or build a petroleum hub from the western region?
That's where we explore, we mine the gold. We mine the oil like somebody
Oil?
said. We exploit the oil from the western region.
Go to ARA, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerp Petroleum Hub, and go and see whether they produce oil there. Yet they have the biggest petroleum hub where we go and buy fuel every month and every day. And so it doesn't matter. You were looking at proximity to the oil production field, but from the 10th field or Jubilee field to Tema, how long is that? TOR has been sourcing for crude oil for years, from sometime from Angola, from Nigeria. Which one is shorter compared to our own oil field here? Meanwhile, the biggest storage hub we have today sits in Tema. The pipelines sit here, not in the western enclave. A refinery sits here. So you could start it from here and link it to the western region. Look at the inconsistencies.
They are looking at building a refinery that has more capacity than this one, 60,000 barrels per stream day.
When did you hear about this pronouncement? About 3-4 years ago. And a private man has come to build a refinery in a matter of 2 years, almost completed with 45,000 barrels per day, hoping to come on stream somewhere in March next year. By end of 2024, hope to go to 120,000 barrels per day, almost 3 times the size of Tema Refinery. You see, I believe that government's posture should tell you what they intend to do than what is written in documents. It's 2 different things.
That they will communicate different things.
They communicate different and act
And they
differently.
act differently.
Because if you are looking for an affordable, reliable supply of fuel,
You don't go out.
where does it start from?
You start from within.
Charity begins at home. It starts from within. When you produce oil in Ghana and when you have a refinery in Ghana, you are traveling to the United Arab Emirates to go look for affordable and reliable supply of fuel for Ghanaians.
Don't you think that can be done? You might have a product here, but the one.
So you are
coming
giving
from outside
priority
is-
to
is
fuel
less-
importation.
less-
You are giving priority to fuel importation than your own resources. Then it means that you are deliberately choosing to waste the country's resources. You are taking money from here to go and buy it from outside and put pressure on the local currency when you can connect your upstream sector, petroleum sector, to your downstream sector and make Tema Refinery work. In 2016, Tema Refinery bought crude oil from the tenfold. No, let's say it was Boss that bought it and routed it through toll for toll to refine for them at a tolling fee. It came in somewhere January 2017. That parcel of crude oil was refined. Contrary to views that have been spread over the years that we cannot, Tema Refinery cannot crack Ghana's crude. How come? The CD, the crude distillation unit that sits there, have cracked even the worst of crude. How much more a light, sweet crude from our own oil field? Why don't you direct your parcel or your portion of the oil produced offshore to Tema Refinery, put in the right structures at all to make sure that they can pay for that oil within 60 days in compliance with the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. So, to receive 1 million barrels, 45,000 barrels per day, all things being equal, within 23 days, they've cracked 1 million barrels. While they are cracking, they are selling. Within 30 days, another 20 days is sold and accounted for. Same. Put in a structure to do that. If you need capital injection, invite the private sector to come into the fray.
Recently, I believe you saw there was a statement that 3 entities were invited and they selected Decimal Capital Limited. Decimal Capital Limited, and TOR put out a statement that they are going to appoint a transaction advisor to lead them. But now we haven't heard of anything about that plan. Have you heard of anything about that from your quarters?
There is a clear intention for Tema Refinery not to work.
How? Even in spite of the recent information.
How long will it take for the transaction advisor to conclude on this simple deal, where somebody is bringing, some capital to, revamp your existing crude distillation units, make sure that some storage tanks are fixed, the crude oil tanks has been moved to more beyond 2 million barrels capacity to accommodate more inflows of crude oil. Make sure that your loading rack is working and the person is coming in with the crude oil. You are not paying for it. So that you sit back, you refine the crude oil for the person, they pay all the staffs, and you take your money as well, your tolling fee. So you are able to pay for your insurance when they fall due. For many years, TOR is not able to pay for the insurance. Government have to cough money from the finance ministry to pay. They are coming to take up all those things. How long would it take for you to sit down and conclude on this? If it comes to looking for affordable, reliable fuel outside, it would take hours to jet off the country to go to Arab, to Abu Dhabi, go and sit there and come back empty-handed when you know that you have a bird in hand.
They came back empty-handed.
Have you seen any reliable fuel in Ghana, affordable? Government
maybe that's why fuel prices are going down.
You are being mischievous.
But you see, fuel prices are going down.
We must be serious about what we say we will do and make the Tema Refinery work. The founding father, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and his colleagues thought right, and they could see into the future as well. That look, let's take this refinery from ENI, they're hesitant. We'll buy it, acquire it. In fact, let's build. We first even need a refinery because we believe that one day we'll find oil and we'll connect our upstream to the downstream, just to give us that fuel supply security. At the time, it was the same oil majors that were importing oil into the country. Mobil, Texaco, and the rest. And so we were reliant on oil imports. So the idea is, don't bring the fuel, bring crude oil and come and refine here. So we know we are assured of supply. That's the idea. Many years after, and thanks to God, we found oil. It's been more than 10 years.
We are still talking about
the upstream and downstream is disconnected. Tema Refinery sits there unutilized, and we are patronizing fuel imports. And year on year, our fuel imports grow. It means that our fuel bills are also growing.
Yeah.
It exerts pressure on your local currency because this fuel are sourced in dollar terms.
And not cities.
It's not in cities. It makes sense to make Tema Refinery work, not just to assure fuel supply security, but also to ensure that we can also earn some revenue through exports. Tema Refinery serves as a learning ground for engineers.
Yeah.
Every year we are churning out petroleum engineers from KNUST, and where do they undertake that hands-on experience? So it means that we are churning out engineers who only read from the books, because there is a refinery or a facility sitting down there that they could have used. So they come to refinery and they sit there for a year saying they are doing service, and they go back. They don't even touch a spanner. They don't even smell gas, and they leave. Close to 2 years. Next April will be 2 years Tema Refinery sitting. So it's
and the workers and the management has taken salaries.
Of course, they will borrow and pay them. But look at the embarrassment. Once in a while, they take off your power because you owe ECG. They take off your water supply because you owe Ghana Water.
So now that Centio, a private entity, has established a refinery that is almost ready to go commercial, very near, do you think that, the interest of government will still be there in making sure that TOR is revamped or revived when another refinery, a private entity refinery, is very close?
Somewhere, I think March or April this year, the IES did release a statement on TOR and asked for the president's intervention in TOR, and did warn that if they don't start Tema Refinery before the end of 2022, the refinery is dead.
Yeah, because why would that new entity, Centio, recruit their workforce? Definitely, some people in the staff of refinery are going to switch.
Because you see more exodus of the engineers we have trained, and they will exit. even while they wait to move to St. Some even had a package to go to Nigeria and work at Dangote. They are still finalizing on that to leave. Some are still going to the Abu Dhabi and the rest. So at a point, you will not have engineers to work when you are ready to run the refinery. Are you going to now import workers to run the plants? And Tema Refinery is not a main facility. If you understand what goes into oil processing or refining, you're talking about heat, high heat, you're talking about high pressure, you're talking about petroleum, which can ignite. And so that facility that's there is also an explosive of a sort. So if you don't get the right engineers to run it, it means that you are preparing your own time bomb. And so we must be serious about Tema Refinery. The engineers that sit there, I can vouch for their competence and their seriousness, their willingness to work. The average toll worker is that serious and willing to work. So but if you choose not to deploy him, he will sit there, takes his pay and walk away. But that even brings him discomfort because he doesn't get that assurance. He doesn't have that assurance whether tomorrow the salary will come, because it's coming from somewhere he has not sown. It's not out of the work that he did that he was paid, which is not his making though, but he doesn't have that assurance. Some of them have gone on pension for years and they've not been paid. Their package, at a point, their provident fund is suspended. And so you are putting, people in a very uncomfortable position. You are deliberately choosing to take the food off their table one day, and you are also putting the country at risk of fuel supply. Touch wood. Should this conventional boil mooring system go down, or for any other reason the BDC are not able to import, what will be our fate as a country?
Fuel crisis.
And if you talk about fuel supply issues, you are talking about energy security. You are talking about national security issue. It could be chaotic. And so it is in government interest to see Tema Refinery come back. They should speed up whatever transaction or whatever advice they are getting from a transaction advisor, so that the refinery comes on stream on time. Other than that, it may be late to restart the Tema Refinery in future.
Are you aware that it was this former MD, Asante Beku, who was the one who was leading the decimal capital?
I am unaware, but I'm aware that Gov't is the one in the package of that DC decimal capital. It is Gov't bringing the crude oil. I am aware.
But Asante Beku was the one leading, because he had been to the refinery. We have had a story about
then it may be good.
And now the man, we understand his issue with U.S. Security and Exchange Commission is not over yet. And recently there was a news item that he was arrested in London. Could that be the reason why we haven't heard anything from
Well, then I'm not sure that TOR is engaging an entity in partnership. Maybe they are engaging a personality. Because the DC capital, as you call it, is an entity on its own.
Yeah,
a body.
I did
a body,
and I did a cross check and read it was an entity
of its own. And so, if it's a part and a member of that group has an issue, does it affect that entity?
Well, maybe maybe he was the one that the statement from Toll said you are going to appoint transactional advisor. So, and up
Okay.
to now, we haven't heard anything. So, my assumption.
It makes no sense to bring Bekun into a point where it becomes the deciding factor of Toll's partnership with a private player to ensure that the refinery comes back. Toll must deal with an entity and not a personality.
Well, we are so much grateful for having time with Energy News, and I mean, this interview has been very, very, very interesting and educative. So we are very thankful, Nana.
We are grateful, we at IES, to Energy News Africa. Over the years, we've seen your platform grow, and anytime you have called on IES, we are more than willing to cooperate with you, align with you, because we believe in the work that you are doing. Because one thing that assures energy security is that level of openness and transparency, and that's what you bring to the fore. Go down there and find what's hidden down and bring it to your viewers and to your readers. It also puts the players on their toe. You give the players in the energy sector the platform to also promote their business, to relay their intention to the larger energy consumer. And so it is good. Anytime you call an IES, we will patronize you. Thank you, Mr. Kirk Afo Michael.
We are grateful.
Grateful for having me. Thank you.